we're going to start the afternoon session, and I think it will be as interesting as this morning. The objective of the afternoon session is to see closely the condition for effective and fair coexistence between ASM and LSM. The session will be in twofold. The first will be a documentary film that we conducted in Cote d'Ivoire on a coexistence between the artisanal economy and a parastatal company, which is Sodemis. We'll have a discussion and a presentation of the viewpoints following this projection. Now, in my capacity as facilitator, I'm Mark Forgy. I'm the international director of the DDR project that will be presented, that was presented this morning by my colleague. The idea this afternoon is to try to find the solutions to the stakes and challenges that were presented this morning, using the image, an image. I mean, we'll try this afternoon to see if there is effective or fair coexistence or cohabitation between the LSM and ASM. We can maybe say that the idea is to see if there is a possible reconciliation between the two economies, the two type of stakeholders. We know that in any marriage there is always crisis, but we don't wish any divorce. So this is what we will address this afternoon. So as we're talking about marriage here of two groups, try to be very careful about the viewpoint of one another, and we will surely come out of this to a situation whereby we will try and find solutions. So without any further ado, I will launch this film. It is the Hollywood first movie, and after that we will have a panel of specialists in Cote d'Ivoire who will comment on the possible marriage, which is positive but with some difficult elements.
Je vous prie de le lancer.
Nora est une fillette âgée de 10 ans. En classe de CM2 à l'école primaire de son village, elle prépare son concours d'entrée en 6e. Comme Nora, de nombreux enfants du village de Forona, dans le nord de la Côte d'Ivoire, ont accès à l'éducation grâce à l'école primaire construite par la coopérative du village avec les ressources du diamant. Le diamant. Un minerai prisé à travers le monde. Fortement recherché pour sa beauté et son caractère précieux, cette pierre est à la fois courtisée par de nombreux joailliers, mais également pourchassée par plusieurs revendeurs à travers le monde. Pays d'Afrique occidentale, la Côte d'Ivoire dispose de nombreuses ressources minières, dont le coltan, le manganèse, le fer, le nickel, l'or et le diamant. En effet, le sous-sol regorge de diamants, notamment dans le nord, où des gisements sont localisés à Tortilla, dans la région du Hambol, et à Séguéla, chef-lieu de la région du Ouorodougou. Situé dans une zone de savane parsemée de galeries forestières, Séguéla est résolument tourné vers le modernisme et son activité économique s'est articulée pendant longtemps autour de l'exploitation du diamant qui constitue l'une des principales richesses de la région. L'exploitation de diamants en Côte d'Ivoire a démarré depuis l'époque coloniale. Mais c'est en 1945 que l'exploitation industrielle démarre avec la CRMC, suivie d'autres sociétés qui exploitaient jusqu'aux années 70. L'exploitation artisanale, pour sa part, a démarré pendant les années 50. La production du diamant à cette époque n'était pas forcément symbole de sécurité. Les artisans miniers, à la recherche effrénée de la pierre précieuse, utilisaient des techniques très souvent dangereuses qui provoquaient des éboulements et même des disparitions d'artisans. L'environnement écologique également se trouvait fortement menacé, détruisant les terres cultivables avec une forte dégradation de la qualité de l'eau. Cette situation engendre également une situation d'insécurité avec des affrontements violents entre les forces de l'ordre et les réseaux de contrebande. Face à l'échec d'une approche purement répressive, l'État décide en 1986 d'autoriser l'activité et de demander à la Société pour le développement minier de Côte d'Ivoire, SODEMI, structure d'État créée en 1962, d'encadrer l'activité artisanale en parallèle à sa vocation principale d'exploration et d'exploitation des gisements industriels.
L'organisation, c'était donc une équipe de SODEMI sur place, avec ingénieurs et techniciens pour apprendre les techniques d'exploitation artisanale et faciliter aussi la vente au bénéfice des membres des GVC en les assistant dans la reconnaissance des bonnes pierres et en leur suggérant la bonne façon de commercialiser les diamants que les gens extrayaient.
La SODEMI a donc démarré son encadrement de l'activité à travers des groupements à vocation coopérative GVC constitués de membres de chaque village. La SODEMI signe des conventions avec ces GVC pour fixer les conditions et responsabiliser ces structures à veiller au respect des règles.
Ils sont venus les regrouper en coopérative afin qu'ils puissent profiter aussi des richesses de leur sous-sol. Et donc nous avons copié ce modèle-là sur le modèle agricole. Donc les réunir et puis les mettre ensemble pour qu'ils puissent travailler et profiter des retombées de leur sous-sol. Au départ, ils n'étaient pas d'accord, mais avec le temps, ils ont compris que c'était pour leur bien-être. On était là pour eux, ce n'était pas pour nous.
L'incitation majeure de la SODEMI, en plus de la mission qui lui était confiée par l'État, était d'arrêter la destruction des gisements primaires de kimberlite que la société étudiait avec des partenaires étrangers en vue d'une exploitation industrielle. Ce modèle instauré par la SODEMI a permis d'éviter les nombreux conflits du fait de l'exploitation, mais également la réduction des dangers pendant la recherche de diamants. Les galeries ont laissé place au fonçage en panneaux avec des artisans miniers bien identifiés par des cartes délivrées par l'administration minière sur le terrain. L'encadrement était aussi bien un modèle innovant et pionnier pour la coexistence harmonieuse entre exploitants à grande et à petite échelle, car les artisans s'abstenaient d'exploiter les gisements primaires. Le modèle SODEMI dans l'exploitation du diamant en Côte d'Ivoire a ainsi apporté un souffle nouveau aux populations en formalisant l'activité. Les villages se sont développés grâce aux ressources financières récoltées par les GVC sur les ventes. Les infrastructures se sont multipliées. Nous avons pour exemple le village de Bobi, belle vitrine du succès du modèle SODEMI à travers ses réalisations.
Ce modèle-là a permis à Bobi de faire beaucoup de réalisations. Si vous voyez la grande mosquée, le centre de santé urbain de Bobi, maternité, plus infirmerie, plus logement des agents de santé, c'est grâce aux ressources issues du diamant. Vous voyez l'électrification, le château d'eau, le marché, le groupe scolaire de Bobi a été réalisé par la population. Donc, la population, à travers donc, le modèle SODEMI, a pu utiliser les ressources issues du diamant pour poser des actions de développement.
Malheureusement, cet idéal sera brisé en 2002 avec la crise militaro-politique entraînant la division du pays en deux avec le nord sous le contrôle des forces rebelles et le sud contrôlé par le gouvernement. Ces 10 ans de guerre ont contraint la SODEMI à stopper ses activités dans la zone. L'anarchie s'installe alors avec le pillage des années de travaux de recherche de SODEMI et le commerce illicite des ressources naturelles dont le diamant. Face à cette situation, l'Organisation des Nations Unies, ONU, a imposé en 2005 un embargo sur le diamant brut exporté de Côte d'Ivoire. Pendant ce temps, la situation sur le terrain reste alarmante. Les populations des villages assistent impuissantes au pillage de leurs sources principales de revenus et l'exploitation illicite des gisements primaires de kimberlite comme le dike de Bobi. À la fin de la crise en 2011, l'État a entrepris des actions pour normaliser la filière et devenir conforme au processus de Kimberley, le dispositif international qui régit le commerce du diamant brut. La Côte d'Ivoire est membre du processus mais n'a jamais été déclarée conforme. Au cœur de ces efforts était le secrétariat permanent de la représentation du processus de Kimberley en Côte d'Ivoire.
La Côte d'Ivoire avait déjà un système de contrôle bien développé avec l'encadrement qui était mis en place par la SODEMI. Parce que déjà, on délivrait des cartes d'exploitants miniers, les gens étaient déjà pratiquement identifiés. Je peux dire que la Côte d'Ivoire était déjà prête à être conforme, n'eût été la crise que nous avons connue en 2002. Et donc, en 2012, après la crise, nous avons immédiatement commencé par la sensibilisation. Parce qu'après une décennie de crise, les gens avaient pris certaines habitudes. Il fallait procéder à la sensibilisation pour les amener à adhérer à notre idée de vouloir rentrer dans la chaîne légale.
La Côte d'Ivoire est devenue conforme au système de certification du processus de Kimberley en novembre 2013, ce qui a créé les conditions pour la levée de l'embargo en avril 2014. Ce résultat a pu être obtenu grâce à de nombreuses actions, la sensibilisation des acteurs de la filière et les communautés minières, l'élaboration d'une stratégie participative en tenant compte des réalités locales et les bonnes pratiques internationales, l'harmonisation du régime fiscal avec la sous-région et le lancement de la chaîne de traçabilité sur le terrain. Cette chaîne de traçabilité repose sur le modèle d'encadrement de la SODEMI actualisée. La chaîne commence par les creuseurs détenteurs de cartes d'ouvriers miniers délivrées par l'administration minière. Chaque GVC, devenu société coopérative sous la loi uniforme OHADA, est considéré comme un exploitant minier artisanal en vertu de la convention signée avec la SODEMI qui est autorisée par arrêté ministériel à encadrer l'exploitation à caractère artisanal dans les zones de ces permis miniers.
La SODEMI a mis quelque chose en place. Si on a eu un coin, on va le voir, les gars viennent mesurer une parcelle pour nous. Et puis on s'en travaille dedans et puis bon, ça va.
Il y a des policiers qui s'en vont surveiller. Tant qu'il n'est pas là, on ne lave pas. Bon, quand on commence à laver, donc tout ce qu'on gagne, il prend tout ça là. Il compte avec les travailleurs. Après avoir fini de compter, il met dans un feu pour embarrer. Ils ont une enveloppe. Ils mettent dans cette enveloppe et puis ils écrivent le nom des chefs de groupe et nombre de graines. Bon, ils envoient au bureau. Si les acheteurs viennent, le monsieur il vient, il retire son graine. On les donne en même temps, il s'assoit, il commence à distribuer.
La production est donc enregistrée dans les cahiers de suivi de production et de vente détenus par chaque société coopérative, comme tout exploitant minier artisanal ou semi-industriel. La vente à un acheteur n'est autorisée que sur présentation de sa carte de collecteur. Après son achat, celui-ci a l'obligation de délivrer un reçu d'achat avec ses identifiants et ceux du vendeur. Sur chaque vente, 8% sont prélevés par la SODEMI et 12% par la coopérative. Les acheteurs remontent ensuite les pierres à des bureaux d'achat agréés pour exportation. À cette étape, une analyse de la documentation et de la valeur est effectuée avant la délivrance du certificat du processus de Kimberley attestant de l'origine des pierres. La mise en place de ce système a été appuyée par la communauté internationale avec les visites par des ambassadeurs sur le terrain et la mise à disposition d'un conseiller technique. Ensuite, à la demande de la Côte d'Ivoire, le projet Droit de propriété et développement du diamant artisanal 2, en abrégé DPDDA 2, est lancé. Cofinancé par l'Agence de développement international américain USAID et l'Union européenne, ce projet mène plusieurs actions d'appui sur le terrain pour accroître le développement de diamants bruts qui entrent dans la chaîne légale d'une part et d'autre part pour améliorer les conditions de vie des communautés minières.
Notre projet s'inscrit dans le cadre de la consolidation des acquis suite à la levée de l'embargo contre les diamants ivoiriens. Quand je suis venu ici en 2013, j'ai tout de suite été marqué par le modèle d'encadrement des artisans miniers que la SODEMI a mis en place depuis 1986. Le modèle SODEMI, avec ses 30 ans d'expérience et de preuves ici sur le terrain en Côte d'Ivoire, donne un exemple de comment trouver un équilibre entre le développement local, entre l'activité artisanale et industrielle, de trouver également des solutions sur comment inciter les populations à s'impliquer eux-mêmes dans la bonne gestion de leurs ressources et également de comment créer un cadre de gestion flexible et réactif et efficace envers cette activité pour que ça s'exerce pas dans l'anarchie, mais dans un schéma organisé. Donc pour nous, comme projet des PDDA, on a toujours trouvé que ce modèle est très intéressant à appliquer ici en Côte d'Ivoire et à renforcer ici en Côte d'Ivoire, et c'est ce que nous faisons. Et nous pensons que le modèle Sodomy peut être intéressant en étant un modèle qui marche, un modèle qui réussit à organiser la filière au profit de l'État et au profit des communautés minières.
Le projet œuvre pour consolider la chaîne légale à travers un appui à la modernisation du système de gestion et d'analyse des données, la sensibilisation de proximité des artisans miniers sur le code minier, l'identification des nouveaux sites secondaires pour les artisans miniers, des formations en évaluation des diamants et techniques améliorées d'extraction et un appui organisationnel aux sociétés coopératives. Par ailleurs, le projet vise à créer les conditions pour un développement durable dans les communautés en appuyant la conversion des anciens sites miniers en bassins piscicoles et sites agricoles, l'augmentation du rendement de l'anacarde avec l'apiculture, la planification participative sur l'utilisation des terres et la délimitation des territoires villageois pour réduire des conflits et promouvoir la sécurisation foncière. Selon le projet DPDDA2, 4 aspects du modèle d'encadrement sont particulièrement pertinents. D'abord, le modèle réussit à formaliser l'activité en donnant un intérêt économique aux communautés de contrôler ce qui se passe sur leurs terres. Le modèle Sodomy permet ensuite une gestion anticipée et réactive pour un phénomène caractérisé par sa fluidité. Le modèle favorise également le développement local en créant des fonds formels gérés directement par les communautés concernées. Enfin, le modèle Sodomy offre une piste de solution pour le problème de coexistence harmonieuse entre artisans miniers et détenteurs de permis de recherche industrielle.
Quand les agents de la Sodomy arrivent, on s'attend au travail ensemble. Il n'y a pas de problème entre nous. Et puis avoir quelque chose pour nourrir ma famille, on se maintient dedans, quoi.
J'ai 2 femmes, j'ai 3 enfants. Bon, c'est ce travail-là, actuellement, je me débrouille un peu.
On travaille dans parcelle, c'est tranquille, c'est garanti, il y a sécurité. Quand on gagne diamant, on écrit, on amène au bureau. Arrivé au bureau, les collecteurs de diamants viennent, on les vend. On va venir montrer les autres. On va calculer chacun ce qu'il doit gagner. Partage. Tu peux rester ici aujourd'hui, voilà, moi je n'ai rien. Demain, tu peux me demander 100 000 francs, je peux te donner. C'est le travail.
Le système est très bon. Il n'y a pas de problème, c'est-à-dire tu gagnes ton diamant. Tu travailles sur le terre de quelqu'un, sous le permis d'une société d'État. C'est-à-dire qu'on amène ton diamant, tu es libre de payer ton diamant à ton travailleur, au prix que tu veux. Le peu que tu as, ils prennent un peu, c'est comme des impôts. Donc à un moment donné, toi-même tu te dis que je participe au développement de ce village. Tu es fier aussi. Donc nous, ça nous fait pas mal, c'est très bon, c'est un bon système.
Malgré ces nombreux points positifs, le modèle n'est pas parfait et le travail de gestion de cette ressource est un travail de longue haleine que l'État s'est montré engagé à poursuivre depuis plusieurs décennies. Au vu des nombreux problèmes engendrés par l'exploitation minière artisanale, l'expérience de la Sodomy ayant déjà fait ses preuves peut être une solution pertinente pour d'autres minerais ou d'autres contextes. Une adaptation de ce modèle aux réalités d'ailleurs ne serait-elle pas une réponse aux problèmes et risques de la filière en Côte d'Ivoire et dans la sous-région? La jeunesse de demain, pour la plupart de ces régions, dépend de la situation de ces ressources minières, longtemps enveloppées par nos terres et prisées à travers le monde entier. Une bonne gestion de l'activité d'exploitation de ces ressources permettra sûrement de garantir un développement des régions et l'avenir des enfants d'aujourd'hui.
dear panelists, you can see that we have movie stars that are part of the film. First of all, we have Mrs. Tess from the Permanent Secretariat of the Kimberley Process. And we also have Mr. Alukumkome, who is the head of the department for the monitoring of the exploitation of sodomy. He's a high proficiency person. Also, we have the honor to have Mr. Aliuba, and so that she cannot work without the participation of the director of mining sector in Sigala. I'm sorry, we are having a technical problem. Okay, it's better. So let me ask a few questions to set the ball rolling in this afternoon session. First of all, I want to ask Mrs. Tess to explain to us how the model for the coaching of the sodomy department have to put in place the system in place as part of the Kimberley process. You touched on its model. How did it help you in your work? Well, it helped us in our work, as the objective of the Kimberley process for the control of the land is the organization of the sector. And with the sodomy model, the cooperatives were organized. They already agreed with the idea of being identified by means of cards, because at that time, sodomy was giving cards to cooperatives, so it made our job easier. And before we give the floor to the audience to ask questions, I would like to ask a question to Mr. Aliuba, who was one of the pillars of this documentary film. You have an extensive experience in this area. And so how do you think that sodomy in setting up this system helped your work to be achieved as a buyer and seller? Well, I started as an artisan. I left school and came to Sigala on vacation. And I followed my uncle to Furna to work there with them. And for the first day, I was able to get 100,000 as a schoolboy on vacation before the end of the vacation. I found myself with some substantial amount in my pocket, so I decided to stay. And so I started as a digger, and I was working like any other worker. And with years, I started to develop experience, and now I became a buyer. And Sodomy came to organize us, and at that time we were in a cooperative. Sodomy was organizing them. They were doing some surveys, giving lands that are diamontiferous, and the various groupings were going to work with us, with our teams, and once on the field, we will now get the diamond and put it in an envelope, and the head of the group and the financier will come to the office and buy the diamond. And the village will take 20%, 8% for sodomy, and 12% for the community development of the village. And it avoid a lot of theft or robbery, because we, the people, we are in the city, the artisans are in the field, and they also have this, sodomy on the field, and they finish washing everything with the surveyors, the surveillance, and from each village. And when they come, they see the group has been able to have a social amount, and then we pay whatever we sell, we get whatever we have to go, whatever we have to get. We share everything as appropriate, and we receive some cards, as Madam Ted said. We as collectors, now they were able to put a system in place which is as part of the Kimberley process, and they have the first buyer in the office. And when the broker buys, he sells it to the collector, and they will sell it to purchasing centers that are authorized to export the diamond. This is how the SODEMI system that was put in place was working. Thank you. Now I will come back with questions on the development activity. Now let me turn to technicians. You have a very long and interesting story to tell with the director of the mining operation in Ségola. Can you tell us about the difficulties that you faced in setting up that SODEMI model? What were the problems that SODEMI had to face at the initial stage and even still today in doing all this? Well, I thank you very much. First of all, I will say that our predecessors in SODEMI told us that once the ministry asked SODEMI to coach other people on the field, it was not easy at all. The agent had to face so many challenging situations. So we started to sensitize and get the prefect authorities involved. And when we found ourselves on the site, there was nothing like a prefect or armed forces or security forces. So sometimes there were some aggressions, the sabotage of our surveying works. Even the water that we were to drink was poisoned. So those were the problems that we faced. But as our colleague explained, once they understood that we came to help them, then they gave us a way to work. And as explained in the documentary, everything is going on very well. The regional director of the mining sector, could you see from far the setting up of the SODEMI? I mean, you saw the setting up of the SODEMI system from far. So what were the challenges that you faced? Well, I would say that the coming of SODEMI was a system that salvaged the situation there, because suddenly we have two zones. We have the SODEMI zone where we have permits that authorize the artisan to work, and the off-SODEMI zone is a place where we give authorization for artisanal and semi-industrial exploitations, and they are under our control. And in the SODEMI zone, SODEMI was given them some subplots. There is no document to provide, and there is only a gentleman agreement between them, and we call it a sort of gentleman agreement. And the good side of this is that they were on the field. So it is their permit. They are there full time, so they have agents that monitor all these miners, and they provide them with advice on a daily basis, as contrary to the SODEMI zone, where they will come every 2 weeks or every month. If the person has an authorization signed by the ministry, he will use his group, his team, and they will work and do whatever they want. So that model was very, very good for all of us, because without them, we would not have been able to start the process. Now let's move on to this question. It has to do with the use of the phone that are normally for the cooperative, the 12%. Since Mr. has been working on the project, he has seen everything on what happened in the documentary. So can you tell us how the model triggered development in that area? Do you think that all the achievements were positive, or do you think that there are some challenges that are perceptible sociologically? Yes, I think that they use, in fact, there is an advantage for local development in using this phone. But before I go any further, I would like to come back on what I said in the documentary. That system attracted product in the supply chain, and how is it done? In fact, it's true, the two things we talked about. First of all, we have the land issue in Africa, and particularly in Cote d'Ivoire. There is no land with no owner. All the communities know where the lands are, even though conflicts may arise. And for the foreigners who are coming to work there, they need to have people they work under, and through that system, the communities that are represented by GVC have a customary organization that allows them to know what is really going on ground. So that model kind of formalizes and put in place some partnership with the state authorities and customary authorities so that they can monitor jointly what is happening on ground. And there's surveillance. So those people who are in charge of the surveillance on ground are not from the government. They are working as community agents. And that amount of 12% helps them to ensure that the diamond is not left and lost, but at least it's sold according to the rules, and they received the share as per the agreement. For instance, if it was an off-sodomy zone, then there is another system that is in place. But the problems that comes up is that if you have 500,000 minors or artisans, it is impossible that a government or a state be able to control everything. You need to give responsibility of communities for them to be involved in the management of the operations. And for us, the most interesting aspect is that one. It has the government, represented by SUDEMI, to be more reactive anytime a mining site can explode in 48 hours and close in 1 month. And it can take, sometimes it can take many months to get the authorization. So when we look at all this, at least it brings the community to be more responsible. And so now on the management of the fund, we try to see that element very seriously. It is true that it creates hundreds of millions of CFA in some cases over decades when it's managed by these communities. There's always some margins of improvement in the decision-making process where, as to the use or utilization of these funds. But sometimes we are confronted with situations where the lands are degraded and scarce as a result of that activity. So the mining sites are now decreasing in number, and it raises a lot of anguishes, concerns in these areas. And we try with SUDEMI to support a process to strengthen or improve these decision-making processes so that the communities realize themselves the challenges or the stakes for their futures in the light of the reduction of the number of these sites, so that they can shift towards activities that are more rewarding to them. We can see in Segala as well that there is a massive transformation of the ecology in that region. At this morning we said that the small-scale artisans use the money and do speculations. And in that area of Segala, there is a kind of ecological transformation whereby the artisan invests in cashew sector, and now the cashew operators have now taken a new momentum in that business, because the diamond economy becomes like an economic engine, because the members now are investing in their feature, and the feature in that region is cashew sector. And as you know, Cote d'Ivoire has now become the top world cashew exporter. So we cannot say that there is a kind of negative trajectory. But there are always sometimes positive trajectories in this area. And that example of Segala with the setting up of SUDEMI there shows how the diamond economy can become a growth engine, or let's say an economic driving force that can help the country also to develop that sector. Now let me open the plenary discussion a few minutes before we move on coffee break, and ask you if you have precise technical questions to ask to our panel on that SODEMI model. We cannot say that it's a perfect marriage. Certainly, there are some difficulties, some challenges, and the team mentioned some of them. So I'm giving you the floor if you have some precise questions to ask to the team up there.
My question goes to SODEMIs. One of the specificity of the artisanal small-scale mining or artisanal mining in Côte d'Ivoire is that the actors are working in isolation under the cover of somebody, but in an area we can have several sites. Was it the case for mine production in Séguéla, and how did SODEMI succeed in getting them into one organization, one entity? What I would like to say is that in Séguéla we're lucky to be working with the villages. We are not working with individuals. The cooperative society of each village within the SODEMI issued permit. So we don't have specific link with individuals. It's the village. The village will appoint somebody to attend the meeting of surveillance in washing the minerals and marketing activity as well. So each village have its policemen. These are guards of the village who will, monitor the activities. So each village will appoint people which each morning goes to the site to control everything. Another specific questions. Good morning. My name is Isse Kabine. I'm from Guinea-Conakry, and I'm working for the 1G NCC. I'm a member of the coalition for the Kimberley process. And I would like to hail this wonderful job done by SODEMI. It's a company, as its name indicates. But we have also the mining administration. This job should be done, technical support, supervision should be done by the mining administration. My question is follow. Is there any plan to devolve these important activities or role responsibility to the mining administration, meaning the Directorate of Mining, to give it, allow this directorate or department to play its entire roles? When the head is there, the knee would not bear the heart. My DJ is here. I'll give him the floor to provide an answer to your question. Thank you, Mr. The answer that I'm providing is, as indicated in the movie, the film, the footage. The SODEMI is not working on the ground on its own. Its work is done under the supervision or is directed by or instructed by the Directorate of Mining. It's a mandate we receive from the ministry. And if the model works well, we see how to scale it up. But for the time being, we are asking them to sustain their work. And I would like to even indicate that an order was adopted to enable the SODEMI to develop its activity in Tortia, which is the second diamond production area. We are working in synergy. We've received instruction from the ministry. SODEMI, which is a state-owned company, is doing the job as it was the administration which was doing it. The model is still experimented, is still piloted, and can be scaled up once the pilot phase is over. Thank you. Yes. Let me indicate that SODEMI is working based on a ministerial order, but as mining administration, we are signing the card, we are issuing the card, and having mission organized in these different sites to see if things are going as expected, and if the operators, the workers, the miners have their permit, have their card. Sure. My name is Tijan Jakite from Mali. I'm working at GIZ. The footage was very attractive, insightful, but I have two concerns. The first one is related to the issue of the restoration of center, because several excavations were made, but I don't know if this model will be solved, or let's say.
Que vous avez mis en place, pour moi, ça s'apparente un peu à une structure.
So the soil restoration plan is provided, but have you planned, as part of this model, to give them more responsibilities as they are working now? But have you will you allow them to go trading and even go to the international level and set a price, discuss with the traders? I don't know whether this is is planned in the model. In our country, the cooperatives are put in place. In Mali, it's in the cotton. Our association have grown into cooperative. Today, they are even going the international market to get informed on their price and to come and trade and bargain. I don't know whether this is taken into account in your arrangement. With Lester on the issue of ecological rehabilitation, environmental rehabilitation. On the ecological environmental rehabilitation. On these important questions, Era, can you stand up? Hervé is a Central African specialist who is working in the area of land filling and so on. And he have just delivered a training to the cooperative focal point and SODEMI, which is technically providing support or supervising this activity. Most of the image that you've seen were areas so satellite imagery of village land. 2/3 of the area are holes over 30 years. This important dynamic for the reclamation of those areas. So it's not obvious, but this is what we are doing. I would like to underscore in connection with the second question for it to be clear, as there were two questions. Here, we are not cooperative of excavators. the term cooperative, cooperative is not right. We would rather say association of through fine and other things, wording. It's bring together the head of the chiefs of villages and include artisanal miners and all, even people who are not working but just there to collect percentage. In cooperatives, the landowners, the indigenous local people have some of them working in the area. So we can still ponder over how do we turn those entities into cooperative. But the fact is that most of those entities are not interested in the activities, are not doing it. Rather, foreigners, non-national, to come and do the job. But to be more specific, when we say cooperative, we are grouping the excavators. We have but the cooperative for the time being will focus on organizing activities and reaping the economic benefits. Will they turn into cooperative? I don't know. It will depend. It's up to the villages and the communities to say if they are going toward that organization. What I would like to say, what Tara said is right. Like I said, as SODEMI has permit, and the agreement or MOU is signed with the villages, with the local people. Those local people will create what is referred to as cooperative. This was, in the past, cooperative-based grouping. With the PK, we need to harmonize things. Then we created cooperative societies as specified by TERA. It's not cooperative societies of the workers. It's the village in which the activity is taking place which will create the cooperative. The SODEMI is dealing with the village. We are allocating plots to those villages. The idea of giving more responsibility in trading along the selling chain, when the prices are not fair, SODEMI will intervene. Or it's the villages who are doing all the activities. So when they come to the office, the group who found the diamond that will bargain, will make the dealings. The initial vision of the activity was to have the villagers find the activity, having full possession of their diamond and engaging in any dealing, any transaction. But we are making gradually inroad and hope that we'll get to that point. We're going to pick a last question before breaking for coffee. This is not a question per se, rather some inputs to add on to the reflection. The first thing is to commend SODEMI for this good job. And the second thing is that this type of exercise is confirmed, underpinned by the model, because the idea is the experience sharing of best practices. Of course, the stakes may be the same, moving from diamond and to gold with different magnitude. That's why the issues may change from one country to another. The issue is how do we transfer the model? Is the model transferable in a gold-based context, as the geology may be different? The magnitude in terms of soil impact can vary from one sector to another. As part of the gold, it's all of the country that can be affected. So hence, the quantity of workers involved. So how applicable, how transferable is the model? These are, among others, point item and put them on the table in order to feed the reflection. Ali, can you give me your perspective of as economic operators dealing with different sectors? After which I will allow the operators to give his viewpoint. On the issue of transferability, I will be more specific. So the activity taking place in the Koyakas land is one tribe of country, even though people are coming, non-national are coming there to work. But the location is the Koyakas country. Do you mean that, can we move that model which is taking place in the Koyaga land to the Anyi land or Yakuba land, which are different tribes of this country? So it's another culture. This area has a culture, a vision of the world. But as if we go in another area with other culture, other spiritual imaging, social representation, will this work? I will allow the economic operator to provide an answer. To answer, thank you. I'm positive, and I will tell you, it's transferable. It can be. I will translate it in other area. We did it as part in the context of gold mining in the region of Angovia. There used to be your villages made responsible for the artisanal small-scale mining, gold mining in their own land. The common element is the village. The point of role is the village. If the village is made accountable, made responsible to deliver the activities, the village will come up with the formula for management, the security, safety, and so on. Now, the issue with the gold mining is massive movement of population towards a specific source. If we can involve the villages, we are in the gold production areas, and allow these villages group in cooperative or the individual of those villages who are authorized to deliver the activities or perform the activity will be successful. The artisanal mining is the business of the nationals. Only national can do the activities. But in that sub-region, this migration flow should be traced. The product who is going outside, start identifying those who are outside as well and funding the activity. In Senegal, the funding was not coming from outside. There were no people outside to fund activity for the benefit of the village. But in the gold sector, people are outside the production area and funding the activity, and the product goes back to those financiers. Hence, the toughness of this gold mining. Thank you. To wrap up this panel, I would like to allow Ali to say a few words. So the migration flow movement you are alluding at was experienced by the diamond sector. Even in the gold sector, as a landowner, in each village where there is mining, there are some, let's say, spin-off, fallout that goes to the landowner. In Tengrela, the gram was sold 18,000, and the landowner, the landlord, we levy 3,000. And they are not giving you the land free, and see it, hand-fold it, and look things, the ball rolling. So if you go to Burkina Mali, you have landlords, landowners, who will levy something on the fallout. So the model of sodomy is doable. There are financiers outside, the funders outside. It's like a diamond. You go to a field, you give 500 CFA per people, like $1. In Missini or Tengrela, they have 3 days to reach the gravel. Once they reach the gravel, you don't spend money again. You do not have to spend money again. Once they have the product, the landlord will take his part and leave the area. It's like diamond. The sodomy model can be implemented, can be applied. Thank you. We need to move forward because we have 4 models to present. There are examples of coexistence starting. I would like us to break for coffee, and when we come back from the break, within 15 minutes, I hope that you will continue asking questions, and I will be working like a Fulani people, a pastoralist, pushing the shepherd